To all those cowardly champions of Ireland who took to the streets of Dublin last night, let me say one thing. Ask your sisters, ask your friends, ask everyone you know what they fear most on our streets. They're afraid of you, afraid of your anger and your rage, afraid of your violence, your hate, and how you blame others for your problems. As a government, we will be relentless in protecting our citizens and defending our people. The Gardaí will be on the streets in large numbers and will do whatever it takes to fight back waves of ignorance and criminality.
Just wrap your mind around how insane it is that you now hear speeches like that regularly from the top elected executive in Western nations. Joe Biden gave a speech just like that. That's the Irish premier right there, speaking down to his own citizens as if they're criminal scum. Joining me now, my friend, the host of the great Josh Hammer Show. Josh, I don't know if many people can see it. I know you see it. I marvel at how common this has become now. For most of my life, you never saw an American president or an Irish premier or anybody speak to his citizens this way. It's second nature for these people now, Josh. They hate us.
Yeah, they really do. And, we've seen this, of course, in America as well. I mean, Jesse, what comes immediately to mind was that infamous speech that Joe Biden gave. I think it was in Philadelphia, if memory serves. It was just over a year ago, that speech in September 2022 with kind of the, dare I say, Nazi-esque red and black lighting behind him, using the military for overtly political, nakedly partisan purposes, calling half of Americans essentially slime balls who deserve the gulag. That's a paraphrase, but it's a fairly accurate paraphrase. It's disgusting stuff, Jesse. And unfortunately, Ireland, I guess, is only the latest country to go down this very terrible road.
Josh, can you explain, take all the time you want, but explain how this could have happened? These are the Western democracies, as they like to call them. This is the free world. This is supposed to be the enlightened part. And now we sit here in 2024, and look, we'll point to Vladimir Putin locking up his political opponents. Our government does that regularly now. This is the norm. We have become what we were supposed to oppose. How did that happen?
So the best that I can do, I think back to all the times that, and there's a lot of people who have made this point, but Dennis Prager, I feel like every other column, every other video he does, Dennis makes this point. And it's a very important point that I think shines a bright light on what we're seeing here, which is the left has moved away from liberalism. And, this is kind of an oft-repeated point, but I think it's directly relevant to what we're talking about here. Back in the day, the left in Western countries, America, the UK, countries like Ireland, France, Canada, back in the day, 50, 60 years ago, at least pre-1960s, pre-kind of the campus radicals, pre the cultural Marxism, before this great book that Chris Rufo wrote this summer, kind of exploring America's descent into cultural anarchy since the 1960s radicals. So going back further to that, going back to the 1950s, the American left was fundamentally liberal. And what that means, Jesse, and kind of a very higher important sense, is that whether you were on the right or on the left back at this time, we really kind of wanted the same result. We wanted America to be good. We wanted America to be just. We wanted Western civilization to prevail over our enemies, over the forces of barbarism, whether those forces are the Nazis of Germany, whether they are radical Islamists and so forth there. But as the left it got rid of liberalism, and as it adopted this modern wokeism, progressivism, leftism, whatever word you want to call it, we don't just disagree on the means anymore. We actually genuinely disagree on the ends. And what that means is that these people harbor a deep, self-loathing hatred of Western civilization itself, of all that Western civilization has given us, of Jerusalem, Rome, Athens, the great foundational touchstones of what it means to be Western civilization in general, of Christianity and the Bible, scripture, the Enlightenment, all the various things that have gone into what makes this whole civilization great. And that is why you see, these modern liberals, when they get up there and talk, or modern leftists, I should say, they start by talking about these land acknowledgments. They start by talking about how we're all on confiscated land. This is all kind of a great imperial colonialist project. It comes, Jesse, from a deep, deep point of self-hatred. You see Europeans trying to apologize for the fact that European countries were allegedly colonizers for many years here. So that's where this is coming from. He's apologizing on behalf of his own country for his own country's heritage because he ultimately hates what that heritage stands for.
how could somebody grow to hate a country that is so wonderful? Josh, I know you've traveled a lot, you've seen the world, and I'm not naive. I understand America has problems, but man alive, I've seen some seriously ugly parts of this world. And here, I mean, we all have an iPhone. Josh, while I'm talking to you, I could sit down and order a pizza right now. Air conditioning, clean drinking water. Everyone's 10 feet away from clean drinking water right now. And yet so many people, grown adults, despise this place. How is that possible?
You know, I think part of it just comes from just a fundamental lack of gratitude. And, you know, the flip side of that, Jesse, is that I think it was Yuval Levin, he's at AEI now. He's the editor of National Affairs, a quarterly conservative journal, and a great kind of conservative thought leader in many ways. I think it was Yuval Levin who first said that the quintessential conservative virtue is gratitude. That's kind of Edmund Burke 101. You know, what did Edmund Burke stand for when it comes to like the definition of a conservative? The definition of a conservative, according to Edmund Burke, is one who cherishes customs, traditions, one who knows that it's very difficult to build good things, but it's very easy to destroy good things. The natural flip side of that, Jesse, is that just as the quintessential conservative virtue is gratitude, what it means to be a leftist, a progressive, a wokester, a Marxist is ingratitude, is lack of gratitude for that which you have, and you have a desire not to build, but to tear things down. That is that same radical impulse that was the campus radicals in the 1960s, back when they were protesting the Vietnam War, when they were protesting all sorts of other stuff that was going on at that time there. And it's the same kind of impulse to tear down and not to build that I think we are seeing here when it comes to the head of Ireland basically telling his citizens to just shut up and take it. And if the form of taking it means you have, you know, immigrants from Algeria, as the case may be, in what happened over the weekend, or in Syria, or any of these other countries, if the form of kind of just sitting there and taking it takes, you know, raping, murdering people, then so be it. That's the price that Western civilizations must pay. But the point, Jesse, and you know this better than anyone in the fight, obviously, the point is that we cannot just sit there and take it, because this is evil stuff. Governments fundamentally in the Western tradition are of, by, and for the people. That is what Abraham Lincoln famously said in his Gettysburg Address, and he was absolutely right. So if those words mean anything whatsoever, then these absolute contemptible fools who purport to be ruling over us by telling us what to do like this, they must be held accountable.
Speaking of evil, despicable things, let's talk about the University of Michigan. Not only did they defeat my beloved Buckeyes this weekend, but they treated my friend Josh Hammer like crap. What happened up there?
Yeah, terrible stuff, Jesse. So their local YAF chapter, Young America's Foundation, they invited me to talk, I guess it was a week and a half ago now. It was Thursday, November 16th, on the war in Gaza. And, you know, my stance on that conflict is very straightforward, which is that there is a good side, there is a bad side. And when it comes to basic things like moral support, diplomatic support, things like that, we should unabashedly support our ally in their attempt to annihilate their genocidal foe. And I got there, Jesse, and within 3 to 5 minutes of talking, these 20, 25 protesters get up there, they throw their hands up into the air. They're all wearing these matching T-shirts that show these Arab children who have died in Gaza since the war started, notwithstanding the fact that, you know, each and every one of these deaths under international law and also just basic morality is attributable not to Israel, but to Hamas because of human shields. Hold all that aside. And then a few minutes after they put their hands into the air, they start coughing every time I open my mouth to speak. I mean, it kind of felt, Jesse, like I was in a tuberculosis ward there. It was very weird. And, you know, I remind them, you know, like I say, like, okay, you know, you guys are allowed to stand there, but it's against university policy. And, oh, by the way, the law to shout down my words. And then the coughs turn into the chants, you know, free Palestine, all that stuff. And university police administrators did absolutely nothing. This went on for 30 to 35 minutes. One total dolt and ineffective, you know, idiot got up there at the podium and was like, oh, I'd like to remind you of XYZ things. They drowned him out too. So they ultimately left of their own volition, but this took 30 to 35 minutes. So I personally, Jesse, you know, I'm a lawyer by background. That's not how the First Amendment works. That's just not how it works there. You do not have a First Amendment right to a heckler's veto to shout down other speech. So what I'm calling for is an investigation from the Michigan legislature here into what happened there, because this cannot happen at what is purportedly a very prestigious public university that is allegedly supposed to uphold the First Amendment right to free speech.
Yeah, more of a community college anyway. Josh, thank you, brother. I appreciate you very much.